set for such applications. Also, as the hearing began, the judges outlined issues that would guide the hearing of the petition. They include establishment of whether the presidential election was free, fair and credible, and whether the rejected votes should have been included in the final tally of the presidential poll. This will be ruled on Saturday. Well, lawyer Kethi Kilonzo presented video evidence at the Supreme Court to challenge the validity of the March 4th electoral process. The lawyer argued the video clips showed discrepancies in presidential election results that were announced by returning officers in Nyeri, Othaya, Kieni and Makueni, among others. Well, those are the key highlights from today's proceedings at the Supreme Court. It is one day down and two to go. And in case you didn't get the chance to watch, the day was marked with high voltage legal arguments, with the big question remaining as, was the March 4th election free, fair and credible? Well, I now hand you over to James Smart and Sophia Wanuna, who are at the Supreme Court. Well, they will be giving us an in-depth look at the proceedings laced with the expert analysis. Over to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Betty. We begin with day one of the hearings, during which the two main petitioners, Raila Odinga and AFRICOG, launched a scathing attack on the system used by the IEBC in the election. AFRICOG, a civil society group, alleged massive discrepancies in the number of votes declared at the county level and those announced at Bomas. Lawyer Kethi Kilonzo asked the 6 judges to throw out the entire presidential election, arguing it failed the test of validity. Raila's lawyers, George Oraro, on his part, argued that the electronic system employed by the IEBC was never meant to work in the first place. KTN's Rita Tinina begins our coverage here at the Supreme Court.
The suggestion that, for instance, a fake ballot or a fraudulent ballot could possibly be given the same status, the same value as a valid vote, surely affronts the sense of justice and right.
You cannot count an invalid vote. You cannot count a rejected vote.
A rejected ballot conceivably includes a fake ballot or one obtained by the voter irregularly.
After a morning session that saw the petitioner and respondents engage on the issue of whether or not rejected votes ought to have been factored in the final presidential vote tally, the Supreme Court got to the core of the presidential petition in the afternoon.
The end cannot justify the means.
The lawyer for the African Center for Open Governance, Kethi Kilonzo, had her day in court.
It was a betrayal of the trust of every Kenyan who took their time to go and exercise their political right. One vote, my lords. One vote. 6 hours, one vote.
2,130.
Using video evidence, she demonstrated how there were discrepancies between the presidential results announced at the constituency level and those announced at the National Tallying Center at the Bomas of Kenya for areas such as Nyeri Town, Makueni and Bomet.
6,075 people voted for Raila Odinga in Nyeri County. The result that was declared for this nation was 5,638. He's not the only one. Kiapi lost votes. I mean, even the little you have will be taken away from you. And this massaging of results, if you can call it that, because I will, that is massaging of results, is reflected in the final declaration of results.
She told the court that some voters were allowed to vote despite the fact that they were not in the voters' roll.
If the IEBC, my lords, allowed any person who was not in the principal register, the only logical conclusion that this court can reach is to invalidate that election.
Her plea to the court.
My humble submission that this court should not shut its eyes to these irregularities. This court should not take a calculator first. This court must ask itself, and I will go back, What does simple mean? What does verifiable mean? What does accurate mean? What does accountability mean?
In the afternoon, it was Raila Odinga's lawyer, Senior Counsel George Oraro's turn to defend the petition.
We have inflated numbers. My Lord, if they can't be apportioned, you are faced with a situation that they affect the result.
Oraro questioned various aspects of the elections, from the tendering of the BVR kits used to register voters, the technology employed by the IEBC, to the exact number of registered voters, what register was used during the elections, and why the IEBC came up with a special register after the official close of the verification exercise.
It is not idle complaint. They have further produced a so-called special register which has more than 32,000 voters. They have not been able to establish to this court what was the final number of the registered voters in the principal register. As we are talking today in Kenya, we don't have a principal register and we do not know how many are the registered number of persons.
Oraro told the court that some voters were allowed to vote in stations other than where they were registered to vote.
This is what we call gerrymandering. There is an admission that they were even allowing people to go and vote in polling stations other than where they had been registered. It is there an admission in writing.
Then there was the vote tallying process.
The unit from which election results for presidential elections has to be declared is the polling station, not at the constituency or the county level, which is the method which they have now adopted.
Earlier in the day, the Supreme Court rejected an application by the African Center for Open Governance seeking to compel the IEBC to produce the marked register. Rita Tinina, KTN, Nairobi.
Our live coverage from the Supreme Court continues shortly, but first to those reactions we promised you from the coastal city of Mombasa, and I now hand you over to Ferdinand Omondi. Fadi, good evening.
Oh, good evening. Here in Mombasa, the situation has been pretty much like it is in most parts of the country. People watching the proceedings, following and making their own deductions. Now, I did speak to some of the people. I went to a few of the locals, including one just not far from the office called The Base. Spoke to people like Patrick, who told me that he's very impressed with the way the proceedings are going on. And in his view, this Supreme Court proceedings is going to make careers. He was specifically referring to Keith Kilonzo, who was all the rave in social media, both on Twitter and Facebook. And according to Patrick, he feels that this will really build her career according to the manner in which she has been presenting her case for AFRICOG before the judges. Other people I spoke to also said that they felt that previously in most of Kenyan elections, justice has never been served. It was their hope that this time round, after this court case has been decided, there will be a sense of justice prevailing among most Kenyans. They've also been very guided in their comments. I felt nobody trying to rock the boat, even with the opinions which maybe they might feel are a bit extreme, or are just waiting with bated breath, should I say, to see exactly what the final decision will be. We are keeping tabs on what they are saying here in Mombasa, and we'll let you know if and when something else arises. For now, I don't know what Carol Nderi has over in Nyeri.
Thank you very much, Ferdinand Omondi in Mombasa. We are coming live to you from Nyeri County. It is a bit chilly, a little drizzle, and the people of Nyeri definitely are anxious. They have been following the proceedings at the Supreme Court live from their television sets. We were able to visit a few entertainment spots here in Nyeri.